Hello, 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 our dear friends. We're happy to connect with you in this space, happy to be with you, guide you, support you through this life, through this experience. We hope that you are well. We wish to share with you our perspective around what you may refer to the ascension process that is experienced within human life, within the humanness. This, for many of you, is experienced in a way of progressive enlightenment, progressive awareness within your life of what this reality is, how to exist within it, and how to form a life that feels most easeful for you. As we observe this, what we encourage you to do, and what we recommend, is that instead of observing it as an ascension process where you are moving upwards or downwards, that you observe this as an expansion process, as a growth process, that consciousness experience within this life, within this reality that you have, is one that grows and expands. What this does is gives you a different perspective, a different reference for where you are potentially moving to and where you potentially are, where you have been. If you are climbing a ladder of ascension, where one level is better, grander, greater than the other, then what this allows for is for you to feel less than if you perhaps have not reached a target or a goal or a level of awareness that you may be striving towards. And if you are to move into a more expanded state of consciousness, a greater state of consciousness within the individual form, then sometimes what this offers you is an opportunity to look backwards at where you have been or where others may be experiencing their life with a sense of judgment. We do not feel that this is useful. We feel that this in itself can become a hindrance, that it can become a distraction from the actuality of the process within your life. That if you observe the process of experiencing consciousness in form as one that is expanding, one that is of growth, if you were to grow beyond the individual state, from where you are now, you learn something, you realize something, you experience something, and as a result you grow, then you move into that state as a result of where you were. And any judgment that would come of that is unfair because it is assisting and is an important stage in being able to move into an expanded state. And that expanded state still encompasses that perhaps contracted state, the experience of restricted consciousness in form. Throughout this, there are some individual aspects to that we observe as part of the human experience. And when you have broad consciousness that is experienced in connection, when that comes into physical form, then experiencing the physicality that for humans within the life, you have the body. And on the most basic level, the body represents the physicality. The environment that you interact with also represents physicality, but there is less identity that's generated around the environment. For some of you, there is that identity, but for most it is the physicality on the most base layer identifying as the body. And this is the most restrictive space to exist within. And the body is experienced also by the mind, and the mind catalogs information and tries to put through the events that you experience into some sort of form to create a story. And the mind will generate identity. This identity, based in all of the experiences that you have, creates a personality of self. This personality is where the ego becomes involved. And through these layers, within the physicality of the body, the mind, and the ego, there becomes an individualized story of what your life looks like. The more that you experience life as these states, the more that you reinforce that they are the state. The way to be able to observe that you are experiencing your life in this way is that each of these exists within a space that is the third dimensional reality that experiences polarity. It experiences right and wrong. It experiences good and bad. It experiences better or worse. And this polarity is represented through judgment, through comparison, and is a state of limitation. Anywhere that you experience these sensations, these emotions, these patterns, these beliefs, without judging them, of course, you simply observe them and ask the question around whether they are real, whether they are constant. The truth of what you are remains constant in all moments, all experiences that you have. From the moment before you were born, the moment that you were born into this life, all the way through until this life ceases for you, there is a constant that is yourself. And this is what we wish to direct you towards. Because a familiarity with that sense of self will allow you a reference to observe all these other experiences that you have within your life. So ask yourself, what is it that is constant? What was there when you were born? What is there still now? And what is there when you will be dead? And what is it that will die? Well, the body will cease, the mind will cease, and certainly the personality and the ego will cease. But there is a sense of self that exists throughout all moments that will remain. And if you build a familiarity with this during your life, it allows you to build context around what it is that you are experiencing. Whether it is something that is joyous, whether it is something that is difficult. It will be easeful if you meet it with the awareness of self, of your complete self. And in that lies the most pure experience of humanness in this form, that is unrestricted, that it is connected with not only yourself, others, but your entire environment. As we see it, the wholeness of universal energy, God, if you wish to call it this, is constantly whole. And in this wholeness, all possibilities are experienced. To create a difference of experience, to create a continued expansion, an aspect of self is brought into a space that is separate to the wholeness. In different perspective. In collective consciousness, all exists simultaneously. So to create an awareness of this wholeness, the perspective of individuality, of separation, is created to then experience the wholeness from. It is not true separation, it is a perceived separation. This is where your individuality is experienced, that you as the perceived individual, separate to everything else around you, is experiencing the world, experiencing the universe, experiencing your life. But you are not separate. Throughout your life, there are many opportunities for you to explore this, to be able to grow into connection and awareness back to the wholeness. The integration of the individual back into wholeness comes from the awareness that the individual is not separate, that it is simply perceiving separation, and instantly in understanding and experiencing this as simply the perception of The truth is experienced that you are connected and this cannot be changed. And then you can remain in this space, experiencing the wholeness from that space in a more enriched, more easeful, more complete sense. And this is what we wish to guide you towards. This is why we are here to connect with you, because we see great potential in each of you expanding the consciousness in form. And this is something to be aware of too, that you do not become more conscious, more connected, more of anything. You are whole. You become more aware of it. You become more able to express it and to create it in the environment around you, to demonstrate it to others. We hope that this perspective is useful for you, our dear friends. We look forward to connecting with you again soon. Goodbye. Some of this we wish to bring awareness to also is that for those who experience an energetic self, a sense of self that is beyond the human form, that for many of you there is an identity that lays within this, that you have an identity that is based in a soul, and along with this soul comes soul contracts, past lives, simultaneous lives, identities that are generated within the soul sense of self. That you can go to some Akashic records, and in that there are records of everything that has been, that everything that is, and you can gain information from that to give you perspectives around your life and awareness that perhaps is not available to you if you would explore it for yourself. This is a trap. This is untrue. This is a layer of expansion within your conscious state. And what we wish to encourage you to do is to examine this. That if you are an individual soul and that it has a personality that is separate to others who have an individual soul, you have created a situation where you have separation. We do not feel that this is useful to continue in this state. It is an important and useful step towards your continued growth. It may feel more comfortable when you're in this state, identifying as the energetic self, identifying as this sense of self that is separate from the trauma or the restriction of the physicality of the body, of the life that is generated here. But can you see how this ease is created to escape the physical space, to escape the physical life? If you are able to identify that you are a soul, you are so much more than the life that you otherwise would have a personality attached to. We bring this to your attention so that you do not get stuck thinking that you are anything individual. Because the paradox exists that you are all of these individual things, but you are also not. You are everything. You are connected to everything. You are able to experience everything simultaneously. The reason that you will find identity layering in and an ingraining of a certain pattern within a specific space in your life is because there is a learning in that for you to meet so that you can experience wholeness in that space, so that you can grow beyond that. So if you are able to open up to the possibility that there is more, we encourage you to explore this. We do not judge. We simply bring this to your attention so that you can have an awareness brought to it. If you have expansion of awareness where you can see this patterning, be conscious that you do not judge others who are in this space, because everybody is meeting this at a different space, at a different time, at a different place, for a different reason. And what you are responsible for is within your own awareness, where you can build an expanded sense of connection. The connection with your complete self, which is represented as everything that is within your awareness. And perhaps within that, ask the question, where in my awareness is there anything that I feel separate from? This will show up within your life in resistances, conflict, traumas, interactions with people or places that feel uncomfortable, that has an emotional charge to it, where you want to hold it at arm's length, judge it, compare it. In these moments, the precious gift that is presented to you is right there in front of you if you are willing to embrace it and bring it close to your heart. The healing energy of separation is connection. The connection is represented as unconditional love. And the unconditionality that exists as wholeness sees everything connected, everything as complementary to each other. If you meet resistance in your life externally, ask the question, where is that represented within? Where do you have a belief or a system or a patterning within yourself that is represented externally for you to see? It can sometimes be difficult for you to be able to see the internalized patterning, and so that you manifest what is happening internally for you in the environment around you. If you see it this way, then you can integrate in your external environment. And this gives you the tools to turn that healing inwards. If you can hold compassion for others, you can hold it for yourself. If you can hold unconditional love for others, you can hold it for yourself. Hello, our friends. As we see it, the existence of your reality is one essential to the continued expansion of the universe. As many of you refer to God, wholeness or universal energy, universal consciousness, represents all that is, all that was, all that can be simultaneously. Time is the illusion that there is no past, there is no future, there is only present. There is infinite present. And within the infinite present, there is still the possibility for growth. Infinity can grow. It is represented within a construct as the full potential. If you have a glass and the glass is full, how can you fit more into the glass? Will you make the glass bigger? God, universal consciousness, as we see it, behaves in a similar way, where it is constantly full, constantly whole, complete, but continuing growth. Within this collective consciousness of wholeness, the opportunity to expand through creating individualized experience is where you experience life. Consciousness brought into a physical form that is dense within third-dimensional reality then has the opportunity to experience universe, God, the wholeness, from a perspective of individuality, from a reference point that seems to be separate, experiencing back onto the wholeness. And so the human life, for many people, has this perception that it is separate, that it is individual, that it is a reference point that is solitary. And through all of the experiences that you have, you are either reinforcing this state of separation, or you are growing towards the wholeness and experiencing the truth of what you are in the wholeness. This is difficult, we understand, because there is the involvement of the physical body and the mind and the ego and the energetic self. You may be able to identify within yourself or others where there are varying levels of identity within that personality that is generated within these layers, within the body, the mind, the ego, the energetic self. And these have different mechanisms within them to create focus. These typically are based within the polarized sense of the reality. And the motivator often is fear. Fear is what restricts. Fear is what limits. Fear is what defines the polarized self. Unconditional love creates connection, creates healing, creates integration, and an opportunity to experience yourself as wholeness. So if we go through each of these individualized states, if we look at the physical body and where it experiences fear, it experiences it as the potential for death. And death being the ultimate fear of the body. The mind experiences fear as the potential for suffering. And many of the motives of the mind demonstrated into the life are to avoid suffering. Most of these are not actualized. These are not in the present. These are either past sufferings that the mind is wishing to avoid recreating, or perceived sufferings in the future. And the mind will guide behaviors within your life around these. It'll want to avoid these at all costs. In many ways, it creates further limitation of you in your life when your behavior demonstrates this. Within the ego is the personalization of these. The identity that wishes to save face. It wants to be able to control the environment. It wants to be able to control situations. It wants to be able to control everything. And the desire for control will create tension. And this tension represents restriction and limitation. And for many people, they go through their entire experience of human life living within these realms. This is not a bad thing, but it is quite limited. And we see the great potential to experience beyond this. For some humans, they experience a sense of self that is beyond these realms, beyond the physical, the mind, and the ego. They experience the energetic sense of self, that something is present that is not represented in these spaces. For some, it is simply energy. For others, it is a connection to spirituality. However, in this space, there is, for many, the identity of a soul body. And what this soul body represents for each person is often different, but it can be guided by specific teachings. If you explore what this may mean for you, if this is where you experience yourself, where does this in itself formulate some sense of identity? Where have you created a sense that you are special or not the body because you are identified as an energetic being? If you have soul contracts, if you have karma, if you have some sort of soul identity that can be read by somebody and you can be told your fortunes, what are these things? And within what space do these exist? What we observe is that these exist within that sea that is the universal consciousness, within God, within all that you are, within your completeness. And it is okay to be aware of these things and to identify these things and to explore them, because they will give you a guide towards where you have the opportunity to continue growing within this life experience. It is important for you to have awareness of this. But ask yourself, what is it that is aware that I have a soul? We wish to guide you towards your complete self. Your complete self is represented as universal consciousness. For those who use God as the context, you are God. You are experiencing yourself from the individuality of the life, from the reference point of you, personality, in this life. You are experiencing yourself as universal consciousness. Within universal consciousness, all of these experiences are arising. The body experience, the mind, the ego, the spiritual sense of self, the soul. But you are not those things as individualized aspects. You are those things as references within the completeness of what you are. We hope this is useful. We enjoy connecting with you, our dear friends. Goodbye.